Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
The plane was gaining altitude, the brightly colored clouds flashed outside the window, and Joanna leaned back in her seat and tried to relax for a while. After the call from her mother and the terrible news of her father's sudden and unexpected death, she cried all night long. The girl was on her way to the funeral of her closest and dearest person in the world. Episodes of her happy and carefree childhood kept recurring in her mind. There she was with her parents on vacation at the seashore, her father was teaching her to swim, they were jumping off the mattress, and then they were eating delicious fruit on the beach. Mom grumbles and telling to get out of the water to get warm in the sun, and they laugh and splash salt water on her. Then she and her daddy flew in a hot air balloon. She was a little scared, but it was so exciting. Daddy is hugging her and telling her about all those distant places and countries where they will definitely go together. Then he gave her roller skates and taught her how to ride them in the park. Before they were even 10 meters away, they both fell over and hit their knees, but they didn't cry but laughed for a long time. He used to always squeeze her, hug her, and call her his little pea. To everyone, Daddy was strict and businesslike, but not to her. Joanna always knew that no matter what, her father would do anything for her. He loved her more than life. Daddy. How could it be? Why did you leave me and Mom? We're both totally unadapted to life. My comfortable life, studying abroad, and having fun is also your merit. The tears began to choke the girl again. She opened a bottle of water and took a few sips to calm down. Joanna's parents had met when they were students. Both were studying at the aviation university. They lived in a family dormitory, shared everything with their neighbors, and were good friends. They were used to living in Spartan conditions. Then they worked at the factory, constructing parts for airplanes. Then they bought an apartment. They were so happy. And when the financial crisis started and the whole aviation industry stagnated, Diego Gutierrez did not give up. He began to think about how to survive and where to get money. He purchased a workshop in an old sewing factory and began to sew fashionable clothes with his wife at the time. They worked hard day and night. Their backs and arms hurt like hell, but they did not give up because they worked for their own small business, so they had to do their best, no matter how hard it was. The business developed quickly, and the quality of products was as good as imported, so there were many buyers. The company gradually expanded and prospered. Together they went through everything. Once they were even threatened by racketeers. They withstood and protected their company. Isa, the faithful wife, found a way to invest the money at a favorable rate and multiply the fortune. At that time, many people did that, even though the risk of losing everything was great. But the couple was lucky, fortune was on their side, and they made a huge profit. Then they bought a small bank on the edge of bankruptcy, and together they managed to restore it from the ruins. So Diego Gutierrez became a respected banker. He was strict but fair, his employees respected him and sometimes were even a little afraid of him. For negligence, slacking, or being late, Diego could deprive them of bonuses or even fire them. He always worked very hard and demanded the same from subordinates. When her husband's business went uphill and the financial situation became stable and successful, Isa gradually retired from business and became a housewife. The Gutierrez family bought a large mansion in a luxurious neighborhood, and the woman began to create comfort, to design the garden area. Isa finally decided to become a mother, because all the previous years flew by like a second, in a frantic whirlwind. There was no time for that. The long-awaited pregnancy came into the family when they were both in their early 40s. The doctors scolded the couple for waiting too long and warned of possible complications, but Isa did not want to listen to anyone and decided to keep the baby. Diego dreamed of an heir and wanted a son to continue his business. So he was a little disappointed and upset when he was told that his wife gave birth to a girl. But as soon as he saw the little funny baby face in the maternity ward, he began kissing the nose and whispering, "My little pea." Since Joanna was a late and wanted child, her parents did not deny her almost anything. Private upscale school with profound study of foreign languages, the latest gadgets, designer clothes, and so on. After graduation, her father sent his daughter to France, to a prestigious university, and regularly paid for all her needs and whims. Joanna studied really well and graduated as an economist only a month ago. The girl did not hurry to look for a job. She wanted to relax and have a rest after hard studies. Recently, she broke up with her boyfriend, a prim Englishman, and wanted to travel to the coast with her friends. But then she got sad news from her mother, and without thinking twice, she left everything and headed home. It was cloudy, cold, and rainy in her homeland, and the atmosphere at home was even worse. Some strangers wandered around the house. The crying mother sat with a detached look in a chair. A woman in a white coat was measuring her blood pressure, and the smell of medicines was in the air. Father's funeral was scheduled for tomorrow. Joanna burst into tears and hugged Mom. "Mommy, how could this happen? Daddy wasn't even sick. What happened? I just don't understand. I still can't believe he's gone." The woman cried even harder. "Grief has come to us, my daughter. Lately, your father was having problems with his heart, so I gave him medicine from the pharmacy. I told him to go to a cardiologist to get a cardiogram. But he didn't listen to me. As always, he had no time because of this damn business. At the table, after work, he felt unwell, breathed out, and died. Right in front of my eyes. I couldn't believe it, called an ambulance, and kept talking to him, but to no avail. How are we going to live now? We had become so close during our life, it feels as if someone had cut off my arm or leg. I will die without him." Joanna sobbed and began to calm her mother. "What are you saying, Mom? What about me? Think about me. I also suffer. Please don't say such terrible things. We must be strong. Can I say goodbye to him?" That was the worst day of her life. Joanna remembered it forever. She could not force herself to kiss her father in the coffin. Her brain simply refused to understand that it was him. The daughter held her mother's hand during the funeral procession, as she could hardly stand on her feet and was crying her eyes out. It was raining. Even the sky seemed to be weeping for her father. A crowd of strangers, a grim cemetery, and a terrible, unspeakable pain inside. It seemed only now Joanna fully realized that she would never see her father again, never hug or cuddle. She was trembling. She felt neither the cold nor the wind penetrating her bones. It seemed like a bad dream, a nightmare. Now she would wake up, and everything would be like before. A respectable, skinny elderly man wearing glasses came through the crowd and gestured to Joanna that he wanted to talk to her. They stepped aside, and he frankly began. "Joanna, accept my condolences. Your father was an experienced banker. It is an irreparable loss for all of us. But you must understand that business is a cruel thing and women should stay out of it. That's why I'm asking you to sell me your father's share for a very good price. Think about my offer." Joanna almost choked on such cynicism. How can you offer it on a day like this? He died. The nearest and dearest person, do you understand that? I can't think about anything else right now. Get out of here. I don't want to see you. Why did you even come to the cemetery, to say goodbye to my father or to divide his money? You have no conscience." The man quickly left and disappeared into the crowd. At home, Mother recovered from her grief a little and began to persuade Joanna to accept her father's position. "Daughter, I'm old and my health is failing me. Only you can do it. Otherwise, these barbarians will tear up your father's business in an instant and steal absolutely everything. This prosperous bank, it's a brainchild of your father. He put his whole heart into it." Joanna resisted. "Mommy, I can't do it. I don't have any experience. I just graduated from university. I can't even imagine what to do there, where to start. My father's bank is sure to fail under my leadership. What kind of CEO am I?" The woman encouraged her. "Joanna, you're smart. You diligently studied at the university, and you will figure it out little by little. I'll help you. Your father and I started with the basics, too. And we made it. Sooner or later, you have to start your career. This is a great opportunity. Your own bank. Come on, make up your mind. I believe in you. For the sake of your father's memory. She took a couple of days to think about it, and then she agreed. She didn't want to upset her mother and decided it's worth a try. After all, if we fail, we can always sell the bank. The next Monday, Joanna entered the bank building, went to the CEO's office, saying to the assistant, "Good morning, Laura. I'm in charge of the bank as of today. Please bring me a coffee with milk, no sugar, and call an urgent meeting at 9 a.m. On the desk, she saw a picture of their family. Everyone was so happy. A lump came to the girl's throat, and tears began to drip down her cheeks. The first day of work was not going smoothly. During the meeting, everyone was squinting at her unkindly, and the deputy director couldn't stand it and said everything straight away. "I'm sorry, young lady, but I thought that after your father's death, I would be the one who would take his place. I deserved it. I gave this bank many years of my life. And I don't intend to watch a circus when yesterday's student runs a successful bank and ends up sinking us. So I quit." He slammed the door so that all the folders on the shelf bounced. Joanna was trembling, terrified, thinking, now everyone else will quit too, and I'll be the only one in charge here. But she tried to look calm and confident, and continued the meeting. "If anyone else doesn't agree that a young student will be in charge of the bank, I'm not going to stop anyone. I need loyal, like-minded colleagues. I need a reliable team. Yes, at first it will be difficult, but I will try not to disgrace the memory of my father and continue his life's work." To her surprise, the rest of the staff was silent, with their heads down. The girl smiled. "All right, the meeting is over, you can go to your workplaces. And prepare last month's financial reports for me, please, I need to go over them." The first few months were very difficult. Joanna made unfortunate blunders, signing several unprofitable deals, and the financial situation became unstable. The employees laughed at the inexperienced manager. It was so humiliating and unpleasant. Sometimes the girl sat up at night over piles of reports and papers, asking her mother to help, and still clearly could not keep up with the frantic pace of work. Now she understood how hard it was for her father to get every cent. Joanna went to work every day as she went to the battlefront. She felt like she was all alone among enemies. She realized everyone was just waiting for her to make a mistake, and then they would trample on her, leaving her with nothing. Mentally, it was so hard for her that she often came home crying from hopelessness. She felt as if she was pulling a huge rock uphill, which was about to break and crush her with its weight. One day her father's companion, the sneaky Benjamin Nunez, came into Joanna's office. "I have found a very interesting and profitable offer from one of our reliable partners. The profits should be good. This should help us dive out of the difficult situation, which is slowly but surely approaching the crisis. Let's meet tomorrow at the Europa restaurant and have a banquet there, where the solemn signing of the deal will take place. It's been a long time since we had a chance to relax. Joanna Gutierrez, you don't mind, do you? We have already booked it for tomorrow." Joanna thought to herself, even if I was against it, it wouldn't change anything. Again, they just let me know about it without asking me or giving me a choice. But she only smiled and said, "Why should I be against it? On the contrary, it will unite our friendly team." On the day of the banquet, there was an unexpected force majeure at the bank office. An old water pipe burst in the hallway. Water rushed in all directions, rapidly flooding the entire floor. Security guard Marcelo managed to shut off the water in time, but they needed to fix it as soon as possible. Joanna panicked, trying to find a way out. The city administration said that the plumber would only be there in the evening, and if they were unhappy about something, they could hire a paid plumber. There was no way out. Joanna found an ad on the internet and called the plumber. In 15 minutes, a nice young guy in uniform and with a suitcase of tools arrived. He expertly got to work, and in half an hour the problem was solved and everything worked properly. Joanna was very happy because there was not much time left before the party. She paid and had a small talk with him. The man was smart and could hold a conversation even about banking matters. And he was so handsome. A tall, blond man with an athletic body. And suddenly Joanna had a crazy and wild idea. She suddenly suggested to the man, "Manuel, would you like to go with me to the party as my fiancé?" He was confused. "Excuse me, I do not understand. What do you mean? Are we already dating?" And he laughed out loud. The girl blushed, but continued, "You don't get it, it's not for real. I just need to impress my colleagues. I joined this company quite recently, moreover, it's my first job, and all my subordinates don't take me seriously yet. It's just for a couple of hours. You have nothing to lose. We'll stop by a clothing store and get you a nice suit. All you have to do is accompany me and keep quiet, smiling friendly. But you can eat delicious food, dance to nice music, and combine business with pleasure. I promise to pay well. I'll pay for this time in full." Manuel liked this businesslike, beautiful, and elegant lady very much. She was not arrogant or boastful, as many rich ladies were, and she really asked for nothing. So he was pleased to be in high society, and moreover with such beauty, who was the CEO of the bank. It was like a fun game, why not try it? And the guy agreed. A delighted Joanna immediately left for the clothing store with a fake boyfriend. She had already imagined how she would impress her malicious and jealous colleagues today by showing up in the company of such a suitor. But everything was ruined by the overly nosy Laura. Out of habit, she overheard her conversation with the plumber and almost fell off her chair. It worked faster than the mass media and immediately told everyone about it. When Joanna came out of the beauty salon, Manuel gasped. The girl looked stunning in a long tight silk dress with deep cleavage and elegant shoes on stilettos. Her favorite set of emerald earrings and necklaces perfectly harmonized with her green eyes, and her neat hairstyle emphasized the graceful image. Looking at her partner, the girl was satisfied. The business suit fit the man perfectly and emphasized his muscular torso. However, when they pompously entered the restaurant and began to greet everybody, the wow effect did not happen. On the contrary, everyone was looking at her companion strangely. The ladies were talking quietly about something. It was all more than strange. Manuel was friendly and polite, but silent, as they had agreed. He danced with her and watched with interest what was going on around her. As they danced, the guy whispered to her, "Joanna Gutierrez, how do you work in such a team? Not a single kind and open person, just a nest of snakes. I can only imagine how difficult it is for you." In the middle of the banquet, Benjamin Nunez turned off the music and called out loud, "Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to finish what we're here for. Joanna Gutierrez, please read the papers and sign the contract. Let's celebrate the successful deal with champagne and continue to have fun." Joanna took the papers in her hands and read all the pages. There didn't seem to be any trickery. She had already put her hand over the paper when suddenly Manuel whispered in her ear, "Wait, let me read it. There is something wrong here. I beg you." She looked at him in surprise, but let him read the papers anyway, thinking to herself, "Manuel, what are you doing? This is too much. This is not what we agreed." He glanced through the papers, frowned, and continued, "Don't sign anything. It's a trap. They want to scam you and leave you without profit. Your bank will sink. Look at what is written in the additional agreement in small letters at the bottom and read it again, but carefully." Everyone in the restaurant became indignant, and Joanna blushed like a tomato and began to reread all the pages, stopping at the points Manuel had pointed out. Her hands immediately shook. My God! This is an enormous interest rate and very unfavorable conditions, which would put us in debt bondage for many years. Why didn't I notice that? Joanna said harshly. Benjamin Nunez, I think you were too hasty with this deal. From now on, please inform me in advance about all the nuances and do not negotiate with partners without telling me. I am not going to sign anything here. It is not profitable for us at all. The man got angry. Who said that? Your alleged fiancé? Who is he? A specialist in the world of finance or a super expert? He's just a plumber. And you just met him today. And we all knew it from the beginning. Who are you listening to? I've been in business for years, and I know what's profitable and what's not. Joanna was furious. Listen to me, it's none of your business who my fiancé is. Esa es una. I won't sign anything. Son dos. The banquet is over. Son tres. Benjamin Nunez, we'll talk later. Goodbye. Together with Manuel, she confidently walked out of the restaurant, tapping her heels. And only when she got into the car did she let her emotions run free and sobbed, trembling. She felt so bitter and hurt. Joanna spoke through her tears. Nothing works for me. Everything is falling apart like a house of cards. I cannot see these ugly faces anymore. I can't take it anymore. I'm just an idiot. Why didn't I see what you saw? What kind of a leader am I after that? And she burst into tears. Manuel was completely confused. He had never seen a woman's hysterics before. He tried to cheer her up and comfort her. Why are you getting so upset? It's okay. You turned out to be smart enough to turn down the scam, which means you won't incur any losses. It's hard for everyone at first, but it will get easier with experience. You have a strong character. I noticed it right away. Joanna smiled weakly and began to wipe off her smeared makeup. Suddenly she stared at the man and asked, Manuel, tell me about yourself. How do you know so much about business? Are you really just a plumber? And one more thing, call me Joanna. The man sighed and began to tell her about his difficult life. I am an orphan and grew up in an orphanage. I don't remember my parents. My mother abandoned me in the maternity ward and ran away without even looking at me. As a child, I often had to fight in order to survive there. In general, life in an orphanage is like being in a prison. They live by the laws of the wolf pack. They subjugate the weak ones and humiliate them all the time. The only good thing was that our teachers were kind and fair, especially the math teacher, Felipe Lozano. It was he who instilled in me a love for the exact sciences. He gave me interesting additional assignments, explained everything in detail, and most importantly, did not allow me to be lazy. Not only that, he helped me get into a prestigious economics university after graduation. I wouldn't succeed without his help. Everything was going fine. I successfully completed 3 courses, and then I ruined my whole life. I fell in love with a girl from a parallel course, Marina. I could not imagine life without her. We went on dates, to discotheques, and had fun. I got a part-time job to go to cafes and clubs with her and buy gifts, but she wanted more and more. My friends told me, Marina doesn't love you. Don't you see? She uses you to the fullest. You let her copy all the lectures, you do all the homework, provide entertainment, and buy her gifts, and she wants more. Doesn't she realize that we are all just poor students? You'll see, she'll squeeze everything out of you to the last penny and leave you. I freaked out, argued with a lot of people, and thought they were just jealous of me. That's why they were pouring dirt on Marina. One day she had too much to drink at the club and started dancing the hot dance. Then some rich dude came up to her and started dragging her by force into the car and offering her a ride right in front of my eyes. Marina cried, screamed, and begged to let her go. So I got into a fight with him, defending my fiancé. I punched him in the face and got Marina out of there. And that brat was raging and shouting after me, I will finish you, penniless student. You will regret it. Do you even know who my father is? I didn't even pay any attention to his words. But this bastard was such a coward that he immediately complained to his father, who turned out to be a prosecutor. I was expelled from the university without an explanation. I tried to explain everything, that I got into a fight because the offender was harassing my fiancé, but no one listened to me. I thought that Marina would stand up for me and confirm that this is exactly what happened. But she took sick leave and went to her parents in another city so she wouldn't be involved in this scandal. That bastard also made sure that everywhere else I tried to enroll to continue my studies, they wouldn't accept me. As soon as they hear that I am Manuel Navarro, they hang up the phone. It was so disappointing. I thought at least Marina would be grateful because I suffered because of her, but there was no luck either. She immediately left me after all these troubles. She didn't need a fiancé with no future. And the worst thing is that she began to date that bastard. His money was a more attractive option for her. That's how our love story ended. I had to go to work as a plumber because I had to live somehow. The salary isn't bad. It's enough to live on. So I can't complain. After all, it's my fault. Joanna shook her head. Yeah, your life is not so good either. If you want, I can help you with money. Or I can help you go back to university. My late father had enough connections everywhere. I owe you one. The man shook his head in the negative. No way. I'm not some beggar. I would never take money from a girl. I can earn it myself. Then Joanna said, well, then join my team as an advisor, because you saw the mistakes I make. You will help me a lot. Manuel thought about it. That's an offer I like. I'm in. Accounting was always one of my strong suits at university. Deal. But how would your colleagues feel about it? They already hate me after the banquet was ruined. They won't be happy to see me. Joanna smiled. No need to worry about that. They don't like me either. But I am the CEO, so it's up to me to decide who gets hired and who doesn't. Actually, I think I need to revise the staff and do a little rotation because many people have become too impudent. So, thanks to Joanna, Manuel became her advisor and her right-hand man. At first, there was a lot of noise in the bank. The staff spoke in the smoking room. Dash, the young dummy is completely crazy. She hired a plumber as a financial advisor. It's not a bank, it's a clown show. Soon our cleaning lady will be promoted to economist. But over time, everyone noticed that income increased and the financial situation improved considerably when Manuel joined their team. The man carefully analyzed all the risks and nuances before each deal and came up with an opinion on whether it was worth getting involved in a new project or not. Many people began to change their attitude towards him and began to respect him as a professional, even though he had an incomplete university education. Joanna became confident and calm. After all, she knew that Manuel would not fail or deceive. She could ask him for advice when in doubt, and she had realized the truth of the phrase that business really is not a female activity. That is why those women who build a business alone over the years become iron ladies or just men in skirts. The man began to visit Joanna's home often, at first with business matters, and then just as a friend, she introduced him to her mother. Isa Gutierrez really liked him. Calm, pleasant, and serious young man. And Joanna got used to and became so attached to Manuel that she could not imagine her life without him. There was a strange relationship between them. A mix of friendship and mutual sympathy. Joanna often thought of him at night. She wanted to kiss those sensual lips, to press against his muscular shoulders, and she wanted to make their relationship more intimate. But she could not be the first to confess her feelings. And she was waiting for Manuel to make that step. After all, she felt he also had feelings for her. But for some reason, the man was afraid to take that step. Manuel had been madly in love with Joanna since their first meeting. She inflamed his imagination, but after such a tragic first love with Marina, he feared that the same would happen to him with Joanna. And he told himself, don't ruin it. Life got better. We are best friends with Joanna, partners, and colleagues. Well, why complicate everything? Then it will hurt again. Is it worth it to start? She is a wealthy, respectable girl. She will play with me and leave me when bored. After a couple of months, Joanna's mother decided that it was time to act. Isa, tired of waiting for both of them to make the first step, bought a tour for two for a week in the mountains. She knew from conversations that Manuel had dreamed about it all his life. When Manuel drove Joanna home after work and came to say hello to Isa, she anxiously began to complain. Daughter, can you imagine? I asked my old friend, who works in a travel agency, to help me to choose some tours. I wanted to go to the sea, to relax. But that old hag Cecilia mixed up everything and bought me 2 tickets to the mountains. I have high blood pressure, so I can't go up to the mountains. I wanted to refuse, but then I thought, maybe you and Manuel would like to go there. You haven't had any rest since you became the head of the bank. You can't sleep well, you really need some rest. Joanna looked at the man. Manuel, what do you think? To be honest, I would go. I think nothing critical will happen during 1 week, and we can work by phone, and now everyone has cameras. The man almost jumped with joy. Isa, you are just a magician. Mountains are my pipe dream. There was a picture in our orphanage, a picture of majestic mountains. Ever since I've been dreaming of going there. Hiking, camping, what could be more exciting? I am so happy. Thank you. But don't think badly of me, I'll pay for everything myself. Isa laughed. Everything is already paid for. Beautiful hotel, huge terrace, lake view. The flight's after tomorrow. Hurry up, pack. Even though Joanna has been abroad many times and it was hard to surprise her with anything, she has never been into mountain hiking. Previously, her vacation was to get relaxation on the beach or to go crazy at fiery parties. The mountains conquered the girl in a different way. They rode horses, swam in the purest lakes, and kayaked. When Joanna, Manuel, and a group of tourists walked for a long time over the difficult pass, she was tired, and she wanted to give up and go home. But once she reached the top of the mountain and saw a stunning sight of a picturesque gorge stretching into the infinite distance, she was overjoyed and euphoric. It was the emotion she had never experienced in her life. There's nothing even to say about Manuel. The majestic mountain peaks and high waterfalls completely captivated him. And the guitar songs by the crackling fire in the evenings created a romantic atmosphere. It turned out that the man knew a lot of soulful songs, he had a pleasant velvety voice, and Joanna just melted. The next day when they were riding on the cable road to the hotel, for some reason Joanna got very scared. When she looked down, she got dizzy. She instinctively pressed herself against Manuel, and suddenly, without expecting it, she kissed him on the lips. She immediately came to her senses and tried to make a joke. "Oh, I'm sorry, it's just a change in pressure. I didn't." But then Manuel, unable to resist, did not let her finish and closed her mouth with a hot, passionate kiss. Their hearts beat in unison, and finally, all the passion, desire, and hidden feelings accumulated during all this time came out. That night they loved each other until dawn. Manuel whispered softly in the girl's ear, "These are the best days of my life, sweetheart, dear, I love you so much." Joanna smiled. "We were so stupid. Like children, hiding in our shells and afraid to say the most important words to each other. Manuel, I love you too. And I feel as good as I've never felt in my life." The man suddenly became serious. "Joanna, have you loved someone before me? Have you ever been in a serious relationship before? You never told me anything about yourself." The girl answered, "I had only one love affair with a pragmatic Englishman, but it was certainly not about love. Everything was very businesslike and scheduled. He even had days of the week scheduled, and he put our dates in his notebook. I was sick of it all. I felt like a toy. It's different abroad, it's more like a business, but I wanted a man to take care of me." Manuel kissed Joanna and said, "I will carry you in my arms. I will always be there for you and always support you. I will take care of you and love you with all my heart. Just promise me you will not leave me in joy and sorrow as Marina did." Joanna clung to his beloved. "I promise. I do not need anyone else." When the young couple arrived home, a satisfied Isa Gutierrez noticed a change. The eyes of both of them were glowing, the smiles never left their happy faces, and happiness was shining in their gaze. "So my plan worked. Well, that's good. Maybe I'll finally have grandchildren." The woman thought and said aloud, "So, did you have a good rest? Have you enjoyed the mountains?" Joanna and Manuel began to talk about their impressions and to show photos on their phones. Then they unpacked souvenirs, healing herbal tea, and cone jam. After a little more chatting, Manuel was ready to go home, and he fussed in the corridor. Isa looked at him with a squint and said, "Why do you go back and forth? Manuel, you should move in with us permanently. I won't disturb you. My room is in the other wing of the house, and my favorite thing is the garden. I spend there almost all my time, and you can live the way you want." Joanna and Manuel looked at each other and laughed loudly. It was time for the wedding, and Isa suddenly had another wild idea. She decided to try to find Manuel's mother and at least to find out why she left him, because life is not easy. Who knows what could happen? She wanted to find her and invite her to her son's wedding. It would have been so heartwarming. She enthusiastically started to work on the case, like Sherlock Holmes, using her and her late husband's old connections. She managed to find out the name and surname of the woman, thanks to the nurse, who was still alive and remembered that young girl. Fortunately, the retired colonel was a close friend of their family, and it was no problem for him to find that woman's address. The woman's name was Mercedes Alcarissa, and she was only 16 at the time of delivery. The next day, Isa informed her family, "Joanna, Manuel, I'll be away for a couple of days. I'm going to another city to visit an old friend. We haven't seen each other for a long time." Joanna suspected something was wrong. "Mom, you have never had any friends in that city. Tell me, what's on your mind?" But she just smiled and said, "Never mind, it's just my old age whim. I'll be back soon, at least you'll have a chance to take a break from my company." And she laughed merrily. Isa Gutierrez found the right building and rang the doorbell. She was not in the habit of backing out, and if she was up to something, she would always go to the end of it. Her late husband had taught her that. A very pretty and well-dressed middle-aged woman opened the door, but her eyes were too sad. She asked with surprise, "Good afternoon. Are you looking for someone? I do not seem to know you." Isa answered, "My name is Isa Gutierrez. I'm from the next town, and we have something important to talk about. May I come in?" The woman let her guest in and led her into the kitchen. Isa decided not to waste her time and started with the main thing. "Mercedes, I happen to know a very nice young man who will soon marry my daughter. His name is Manuel. He's 25 years old, and he grew up in an orphanage. He says his mother abandoned him in the maternity ward. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" The woman got sweaty, changed her face, and asked sharply, "What do you want from me? Why are you interrogating me? Why do you care about my life? Who gave you the right to bother me?" Isa tried to speak softly and smiled. "Don't be so nervous. It was only my idea to come here, and neither Manuel nor Joanna knows anything about it. They're getting married soon, so I thought you might want to congratulate your son. I'm not judging you at all, although I can't understand how someone can abandon their child." Suddenly, out of the blue, Mercedes started crying. "I was 16, and my parents were respectable people. My mother was a gynecologist, and my father was a professor of philology. I was still in high school when I fell in love with Sebastian. We were friends. We went to movies and discos together. And then, well, it only happened once, and I got pregnant. I tried to hide it for a long time. I hid my belly under white sweatshirts. When my mother and father found out, it was too late to have an abortion. 6 months. There was a huge scandal at home. My parents yelled that I had embarrassed them in front of the whole world. Sebastian's parents immediately realized what was going on, and after selling everything they had, they left the city together with Sebastian. I did not tell them about him. What was the point? Mom said it was out of the question. I can't have a baby with a stranger at 16. So she sent me away, as if for long-term treatment in a hospital. In fact, I was at home all the time, and then I gave birth and left the baby. My mother took care of everything, and they took him to the orphanage. The problem was solved. I regretted and cried so many times afterward. I was married twice, and I became a gynecologist, too, but God never gave me more children, so I guess that's the price I paid. How will I look my son in the eye? What will I say? I'm terribly ashamed. What kind of mother am I? I was still a child when I gave birth to him. Isa Gutierrez listened without interrupting, then said, "Your son Manuel is a very good and kind guy, despite his broken fate. I think he can forgive you. Anyway, the wedding will take place in 2 weeks at the Plaza restaurant, and then, as you know." Soon there was a big, beautiful wedding. Everybody was having fun and dancing till morning. Feet were humming from the fiery dancing for a week. Suddenly, an attractive, well-dressed middle-aged woman walked into the hall. She looked around and immediately recognized Manuel. He looked so much like her late father. She walked up to him and said, "Hello, Manuel. I need to talk to you. Can we talk in private?" The man refused. "Good evening. I have no secrets from my fiancé. You can talk here. What do you want?" Mercedes sighed and continued, "Manuel, I am your mother. My name is Mercedes. I really abandoned you in the maternity hospital. I don't make excuses for myself. The only thing I can say is that I was only 16 at the time, and my parents forced me to do it. But that doesn't absolve me of my guilt. I've regretted all my life what I've done, and that's why I want to ask your forgiveness. I don't need anything. I'm well off. I congratulate you from the bottom of my heart on your marriage. I wish you both happiness. I am sincerely happy for you. Here, this is for you from me. A wedding gift." And she held out the keys to the car. She turned around and wanted to leave, realizing that she didn't fit in there and that her son would never forgive her. And there was no way to get anything back. But suddenly the man ran up to her, hugged her tightly, and whispered in her ear, "I forgave you a long time ago, when I was in the orphanage and I was waiting for you. I am so happy that you found me and wanted to see me, even now, when I am an adult. I'm not letting you go anywhere. Have a seat at the table." The woman cried, Joanna cried, and only the pleased Isa Gutierrez rubbed her hands happily. "Well, that's good. It all worked out just right." The guests looked at each other perplexed and could not understand what had happened. Then Manuel took the microphone and announced, "Dear guests, please drink a toast to my mom, who found me after all these years. Now I also have a family." Everyone shouted hurrah and drank champagne. The dances continued. Isa sat next to Mercedes and began to build a relationship. When the fun was coming to an end, Manuel whispered in Joanna's ear, "Let's escape. I have another surprise for you." The girl was intrigued. "Really? I'm all for it. I love surprises." The man said quietly, "Just one condition, you will be blindfolded. Otherwise, you will not get the right effect. Okay?" Slowly they escaped from the banquet unnoticed. Manuel blindfolded Joanna with a thick scarf and helped her get into a limousine. They drove for a long time, then walked, then he picked her up in his arms and carried her somewhere. Then the ground began to sway and move away from under their feet. The girl got scared. "Manuel, I'm taking the blindfold off. What kind of joke is this? It's not funny anymore." When she opened her eyes, she was amazed. She and Manuel were on a snow-white yacht, right in the middle of the wide river. The wind was blowing the sails and her airy snow-white dress. A delicious buffet was served with fruit, champagne, and caviar sandwiches. It was so special and amazing. No one had ever done anything like that for her. The sight of the endless majestic river that smoothly passed into the horizon line, the refreshing breeze, the seagulls screaming overhead, and the beloved man standing next to her at the helm, like a real captain. It was so magical. Husband gently kissed Joanna, hugged her from behind, and whispered, "How did you like the surprise? Was it a success? I hope you don't mind spending an unforgettable wedding night on this boat. It's just me and you, the waves, the wind, and the river, and not a soul around." Joanna was shocked and happy at the same time. Manuel did it so well. So romantic. She even had tears in her eyes. The newlyweds have definitely remembered this night as the best night of their life. Right after the wedding, Manuel moved to Joanna's mansion. Both of them returned to work. After the vacation, there was a lot of work, and they had to solve problems until late at night in non-stop mode every day. After a month of this frantic pace of life, Joanna began to feel worse and worse day by day. She had no energy at all. In the morning she could hardly get out of bed, was constantly nauseated, and had no appetite at all. She was really frightened, but she didn't say anything to Manuel, even though he had noticed that she had lost too much weight and he even had to force her to eat. The girl decided to share her thoughts with her mother. In the evening, when Manuel went to take a shower, she said, "Mom, please don't worry. Which doctor should I visit? I don't feel well. I feel nauseous and weak. What if it's something bad? I'm afraid to even think about it." And her mother laughed. Go to the gynecologist, darling. You are pregnant. I realized it a while ago. I'm still waiting for you to please me with a baby. Fortunately, your mother-in-law is a gynecologist. Joanna was dumbfounded. How? It's impossible. But actually, why is it impossible? Hooray! Manuel almost cried with happiness as he looked at the little spot on the monitor which his mother and the ultrasound doctor showed them and said that it was their baby. The man muttered, "I'm going to be a father. A dad. A daddy. What a blessing. I will give my baby all the love and tenderness I've been deprived of." And Joanna, lying on the daybed, thanked in her mind the disgruntled receptionist who told her to call a paid plumber. Manuel's temporary profession turned out to be prophetic. He became the husband one could only dream of. Sometimes it happens that just one chance, fleeting encounter with a person can completely change your fate and direct it in a happy direction.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe.